Hey, it's Keith from Outlaw Speed Shop, and welcome to this episode called the Dairy Hauler. I took a Hot Wheels dairy delivery, which, if you've ever stripped one, sucks. Especially the old ones. This was the white one that's gut milk. I don't know how they painted those things, but crazy. But I'm going to kind of morph that with this Hot Wheels hauler. We'll see how it goes. I think it came out pretty good, so stick around. So yeah, I obviously pre-stripped this just to save some time because this is one of the worst castings to strip. As I stated, the old ones are just horrible to strip. So I'm going to be cutting off the back half, and really all I'm doing here is I'm using some thinner type Tamiya tape to mask off where I plan to cut and try to make it as symmetrical as I can. I can grind down if I'm off a little bit, kind of like what I am doing right now. Just kind of rounding off the corners and smoothing things out. And I'll also use a file to get the areas that I really need to. And now I can start to kind of visualize, because I wasn't sure how this was going to fit together. And I ended up cutting a little bit more than I needed, or actually I cut as much as I needed to, but I didn't think it was going to be that much. And it's always better to cut less first, and then you can always take off more. You don't need a cutoff wheel. You can use a jeweler's saw or whatever whatever works for you. But for the most part, what I'm trying to do is just take off a little bit at a time and see what I need to cut off. Because you can always take more off and then trying to put back on. I've got like 8 of those castings anyways, but try to get it right the first time. So it's just much easier to take your time and see how it's going to fit. And what I'm going to end up doing is notching out the corners to get it to fit after I cut off the back half pretty much right at the tail section. That gives me an idea of what I've got. Width-wise, it's really good. They match up very, very well. But in order to get it to, I need some gluing area as well. So first thing I'm going to do is kind of cut the sides off because I don't need those. I'm going to make my own sides. And they were obstructing the fit for where I was trying to mate it up with the original interior piece. The original chassis. So I could have made something that worked, but I kind of need the back half because that's the part that the bed slides on. So here you can kind of see what I'm trying to do, and I'm going to end up notching that section out of the hauler to match the dairy delivery, and then it'll just sit just like that, and then that gives me a glue point, and then I can kind of shore that up with some styrene underneath and on top. But at least I've got a solid area to mate, which is really what you kind of want to do that. So now that I got that pretty much settled, I got these M2 wheels. Yeah, M2s. I don't remember what they were off of. I've got a bunch of different M2 castings. I buy them really just for the wheels. They were, in normal castings, they'd be too big. For this is perfect. So I end up cutting most of the back off and just leaving the rails that the bed's going to slide on. And then I'm going to have to build out a little bit where the wheels go so that it doesn't hit the bed, because they are a larger diameter than probably what I would normally use. So next on to the interior, and same thing, I'm going to cut it pretty much right at the same spot I cut the chassis at. I don't need the back half of this with the tubs. And again, I trim a little far out, see how it's going to fit, and I just keep trimming closer and closer to the seat till it fits in exactly how I want it to, and make it fit. So ideally, I end up using a piece of square tubing. I could have used round, but square just worked out good. It's 1/16 tubing. The M2 axles are a larger size, so the normal 1/16 brass tubing that I would use for axle tubes really wouldn't have worked. So this does the same thing, and I don't have to worry about it. And It gave me the stance that I want. Note to self, don't try to pry wheels off with a knife, because that'll happen. And I knew it was going to happen too. I'm like, oh, I should just get a screwdriver. It's right there. Nah, I'll just use a knife. So I saw it coming, but kids don't do that at home. Unless your parents are around, then have fun. But anyway, so now the interior, the front axle, I have the same issue because it's the M2 wheel, so it's got the M2. I keep saying M2. The muscle. What are they? It was off a Charger. Now I'm gonna have to think about that. Yeah, Jada Toys. That's what it was. I'm sorry, Jada Toys. And I end up, obviously, with the larger axles, I have to do the same thing. And you can kind of see the square tubing that I used in the back. I did the same thing in the front. I just had to grind down a little bit because the stance would have been too high. Between the thickness of the square tubing that I used, plus being on top of the chassis, it was a little too much. So I kind of fabricated out of styrene, really thin styrene, these side pieces, and it's pretty much designed to go up to the wheel and around the wheel. So I put some Epo Putty on there to fill in the gaps that were there. Next is the windshield. Same problem as the chassis and the interior. Got to cut it off at a certain spot so that because I'm not using the entire casting, obviously, but I want to keep the front windshield. So I kind of taped it in there just to see how everything was going to fit and roll. And then it was time to fill in the back. So I used, again, a thin piece of styrene. I fit it in there. It was a little tough because it's got a curvature to it. So I did the best that I could. I creased it, scored it very, very lightly, bent it, and then fit it in there. And then I'm just going to use this Epo Putty, which I don't use a lot of. You just got to knead it really well and keep your fingers moist, and it works pretty well. I mean, it hardens up better than most other things. I usually wait about 24 hours. But little tip is, if you do use it, try to clean off as much as you can while it's still tacky. Just makes your life a hell of a lot easier when it comes to sanding. But it sands awesome. Really, really good, as you can see here. This is a long video, so I'm skipping some steps, but you can kind of see I primed it white. Now I'm going to use this rust and chipping effects, which, if you watched my last video on the 4 Horsemen for the delivery vehicle, kind of the same thing. I'm going to use 2 colors. I'm pretty much going to go from the heavy extreme, so a darker brown, to a lighter rust color. And then I'm going to use this with the airbrush. So I spray the dark brown on, and then I go over it real quick with the light, just to give it some shading difference, so when I do the chipping effects, you stand a chance of seeing all the different shades in there. So after I did it, I give it a quick matte clear. Then I'm going to put the chipping medium on. The matte clear just helps protect it so that when you go to, I'm going to end up painting this blue. So when I go to wet it and try to remove some of the blue paint to show the brown underneath it, if I go too deep, the matte clear protects it, and it just keeps me from going all the way down to the bare metal, which I've done in the past. So this is the first time I matte cleared. It worked really well. So I'm using the Le Mans blue from Splash Paints, and I pretty much just taking a stiff brush or a couple stiff brushes, and I'm wetting things. I'm just trying to weather where I put on the chipping medium, so it'll take away the blue paint, leave the brown underneath. This is more of a taste. Just do what you think looks good. I don't have a rhyme or reason. I just kind of keep working it. The more the water seeps in, the easier it is to get off. I just kind of went where I thought rust would be, and I'm kind of going with the shiny rust approach anyways. So this really, I think, works good. You're not taking away so much of this big craters there of paint. So the texture is still all really nice and smooth to begin with. The clear coat just kind of solidifies it. So I'm taking a little bit of Riser Rust from Citadel, which is a texture paint. I mixed it with some water, and I'm just adding just a dab of more color. And all I'm trying to do is make certain spots of rust stand out a little bit more. So I'm putting a little dab, and then I'm just watering it down even more, just enough so that it's. I mean, I don't even think it's noticeable, but once I clear coat it, but it is there. It just adds a little bit. I'm not doing it everywhere. I'm just doing it in certain spots, just to kind of trick the eye, I guess you can say. And rust isn't all the same color, obviously. Depends on what stage it's at. So that's kind of all I'm trying to do. I'm not a pro at this by any way, shape, or form. The more I do it, I'm sure I'll get better at it. Um, and there's probably 5, 6 ways to do what I'm doing right here. I've probably done 3 of them previously. Each time I try to do something a little different and step out of my comfort zone. And I also don't care how it comes out. So, worst case scenario becomes a post-apocalyptic thing. So, most of my post-apocalyptic builds don't start off that way. It's just because I screwed up somewhere, and that's how I ended up going. So just a little tip for you guys. So now it's just a matter of detailing them. I painted everything blue. It was just easier so I could get those side pieces with the airbrush, but a lot of overspray went everywhere, obviously. So now it's just a fun part of trying to paint everything. And I'm painting a lot of stuff that you'll never see, but you never know it's just, for me, I find it relaxing, and I don't mind doing some of the minutia of a build. It's this stage, you can kind of see how it goes together. It's just one of those things you don't mind. You're kind of winding down on the project. You'll also notice in the bottom, like around 5 o'clock of the video, I've got the bed, and the bed came black, but it was black plastic, so it had like a sheen to it. So I ended up painting it matte black, and that kind of took that plastic look away. So I thought that was kind of a nice touch. It's something that in the past I might have just ignored and skipped over it and left it the way it was. This kind of dulled it down, and actually really, I think, made a huge difference in the end result. So, but it's probably something only I noticed. So yeah, I just started detail painting everything. Did the grill, the headlights. Now I want to make some exhaust. I'm using my knife again. I'm using some 1/16 aluminum tubing, and I'm going to end up just putting it underneath on the back. You'll see in the finished pictures. So I just got to cut 2 the same length and try to glue them straight underneath, which I think I accomplished. And the aluminum tubing, I use brass for wheel axles, but I could have used the same size for normal Hot Wheels axles, but they work out good for exhaust as well if it's straight pipe type of thing like this. But overall, this was a fun project. All I got left to do is clear it, and then we can do the final reveal. I'm using Automotive 2K Clear. If you like the content, make sure you like this video, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of all future videos. Not sure if you guys are aware, but I do have an Outlaw Custom Club YouTube membership with special benefits. Some members-only content like website discounts to customs that I have for sale, behind-the-scenes videos, progress pictures and content, so on and so forth. Make sure you check it out. So this is the 2 castings I started with, if you recall, from 12 minutes ago. Here it is in some various stages. Sometimes you can't always get a good feel from the video. There it is, very rough, so I could see what I needed to sand. I gave it a first coat of primer, and this is what I ended up with. I kind of dig it. I'm using this as my new shop hauler. This is my Nova gasser that I converted over. I do have a video for that. I just never did anything with it because I'm not 100% happy with the way it came out. Maybe someday I'll do that video, but in the meanwhile, this is the finished casting. I have 4 coats of clear, that 2K clear. You can see the exhaust underneath there. Overall, I like it. It was just it was kind of a fun project to try to meld 2 castings together and make it look as seamless as you can and like it was intended. Really happy with the way the bodywork came out, especially on the back part. That was one of me and bodywork. When I used to build cars, I'd do everything but the bodywork and just give it to somebody because I just never had the patience. So overall, I'm real happy with the way that came out. I'm happy with the way the rust came out. I got about 10 pictures here. I hope you guys like it. Let me know down below whether you like it, you hate it, you want to see more of these kind of builds where I'm taking two castings and putting them together and making something that didn't exist to begin with. I enjoy doing them. They take a little bit longer, so I can't put out a video a week. It might be 10 days. But if it's something you guys like, let me know down below. Or if you hate it, tell me to just go back to doing what the hell I was doing before and shut up and do videos. But thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.